You've heard of the Banking Bros, but what about a Banking Beauty? Ladies and gentlemen, coming up next on the Cash Compound Podcast. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. In studio today, we've got JDew and
Robin Washington.
We've got a Banking Beauty with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we've expanded our coaching to include this young lady here who has been banking for 15 plus years. So I am the newbie and you are there's a mentor and there's the mentee today. Yeah. And once that student is ready, that's me today, ladies and gentlemen. The teachers arrive. The teachers arrive. So we're so excited to have you in office. And recently, we've decided to partner. You knew of Nelson personally. I want to hear those stories. And secondarily, you've been practicing banking for about twice as long as I have. So I want to hear all about your story. So let's start from the beginning. Robin Washington, who are you?
Oh, well, hello, everyone. My name is Robin Washington, and I am out of Jacksonville, Florida. And basically, my husband and I, we met the infinite banking concept about 15 years ago. And it just absolutely changed our lives. At the time, I had 2 young kids. And my husband was full-time in the corporate world. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And we were living on one income. And basically, we just, typical family, we had debt. And, I'm the one in the household that kind of handled the money and paid the bills and was always trying to figure out, how do I get rid of the debt? Just always seems like there was more month than money.
I heard that before. Your house too. Huh?
Yeah, okay. My house too. So went to a financial seminar. I was one of those that I wanted to learn. I didn't know anything about money. I was never taught anything about money. I figured if you want to learn something, you need to go to the people who know it. And so I started attending different financial seminars. And as a result, I bumped into the person who finally ended up becoming our mentor and taught us the infinite banking concept. And guys, I will tell you that just opened up so much of our just the freedom in our finances. So for me, it has just been a godsend.
Love it. Now, you mentioned single mom at the time. I'm sorry, stay-at-home mom at the time.
Stay-at-home mom.
Your husband's working hard. He's providing, but you kind of have the responsibilities at home to figure it out from what's coming in. Right. So my question is, if you got 2 kids at the house and you're trying to put it all together, and what was he doing? Like, you're going to financial seminars. And I just met your husband today, and he can hear me just outside the studio. I'm wondering, what was this man doing? What was he doing?
Actually,
anything?
No. Actually, he was going to a lot of the financial seminars with me.
Okay, he was.
It's just this particular one where I learned the infinite banking. He was kind of done with going to financial seminars. Okay. So I ended up going to this one by myself. But we have always kind of been on that track of, how does money work and how do you get money to work for you instead of you working for the dollar?
So if we can go back a little bit, though, my question would be, if you'd been attending other financial seminars, and I think a lot of our listeners who listen to this probably listen to other podcasts, probably are trying to figure things out for themselves as well. What made this concept different? Did you end up applying everything you learned at every concept, or what was special about this one? Why did it end up catching you?
You know what? Actually, it's really interesting because we had, if you will, a phone call with a person. Okay. And because my husband didn't go, he actually, was listening in or was part of that phone call. And one of the things that really caught his attention was because of a previous experience that we had where he had learned the ability to borrow from his 401k. Okay, gotcha. So and we did that to buy our truck at the time and pay ourselves back. So when he heard the person that was kind of, introducing us to the infinite banking concept, when he kind of heard it had a similar kind of if you will, feel to it.
Okay, right.
That's what piqued our interest,
Yeah.
was the fact that because we saw the benefit of being able to borrow from our 401k and pay ourselves back. Well, this was to another level. And so that really is what grabbed our attention.
Okay, got it. Well, let's get into some of the nuts and bolts here. When you say that, I'm just following along the path you're dropping, paying yourself back, and then that. A lot of people have a hard time with that idea. If I take money and I pay myself back, am I losing money? But when you are doing that in your 401k or your policy, you start to understand that there is financing charges. But in the infinite banking concept, you're going to keep them. You're going to get them rather than them leaving you and going to a third party.
Exactly.
How powerful is that? How much money can you really make? Like, how do you help people kind of understand that part?
Well, one of the things that I came to understand is that when it comes to your dollar, there's only two things that you can do with your dollar. You can either borrow somebody else's dollar, and then you have to pay them, the finance charge to use their dollar. Or you can take your money out of your bank, so to speak, and pay cash, right? But then you lose the opportunity of that dollar working for you because it left your hand and it went into somebody else's hands. So for me, the infinite banking concept basically allowed me to learn how to stay in control of the dollar and, be able to get the money back into my hands so that money, I always say that money that stays in your hands can grow. It can work for you. Money that leaves your hands, it stops working for you. It can't grow. And so once you lose that control, so being able to pay yourself back is the ability for you to keep that money under your control.
Now, how do you help people understand that? Because this is why I asked this. In Nelson's book here, Becoming Your Own Banker, 5th edition, the arrival syndrome sets into people so quickly. No, that can't be possible, or I already know that, or I already know how insurance works, right? Because the concept we're deploying the process from is insurance.
Right.
Like, have you seen that be a problem in many people you've talked to?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it everybody, you've got the gift and somehow everybody you've talked to has figured it out? Because I'm still trying to figure that out about everyone else.
No. The arrival syndrome, that I think that's the most important key is that you need to always be open and be a student. If you think you know it all, you think you got it all, then, basically you're not going to be able to understand this concept, So that I feel like that was one of the things for, my husband and I, is that even though this was foreign to us, we were open and willing to learn. I didn't feel like I understood it. I could corner the market on how to get my money to work and, grow for me. So to me, that's one of the things I think is important, is always to be a student.
So the question is now, how and why did you decide to transition from what you were doing in a busy family life into helping people understand this concept? Obviously, around here at the Cash Compound, we think it's pretty darn important, but you decided this on your own before we came around. There's still people who call us up daily and weekly, and they want to help people do it. But what was the kind of like trigger for you? Said, you know what, I really got to get into the game here and not just do it at home.
I love that question because, I tell people all the time, if you'd ask me, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Okay.
I would have never said to be an insurance agent.
Okay, right.
That just wasn't something.
I don't think I knew what it was when I was growing up, first off. So it wasn't because, I wanted to get into the insurance industry that, I guess you could say bumped into the infinite banking, but it was the infinite banking concept is what brought me into the insurance industry. And the primary reason is because I didn't know this. Once I saw the freedom and the power that it could bring to us, our family, my question was, well, how come
I was never taught this. I went to school, I went to college, it's like, but nowhere along my life journey did anybody teach me of how to gain freedom with my money.
Okay.
Okay.
Freedom. Yeah.
Exactly. And
always is elusive and every other thing, but you're saying that you're on the path, or you are able to actually achieve it with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. And that's really what really brought me into this industry, because if I didn't know, and meaning that, I went the path that everybody says to go, but somehow I didn't get exposed to money, if you will.
Right.
So if I didn't know, maybe there were others out there that didn't. And if I was going to...
Maybe. It was definitely everybody I knew. We were all stuck. We didn't know a thing. If I was going to share,
this concept with people, then as people decide that, hey, yeah, I wanted to do that, then I wanted to make sure that they were going to be taken care of, So that's really what got me and my husband actually involved in being agents and, sharing this concept with people.
Now, if I go back far enough in my personal family line here, we've got farmers, and we can go back to about sharecropping before we start to lose it in our family and not know. Southern sharecropping, farming type people. And what I've started to realize that in the Black culture and our communities, my family and many others, look, we don't know anything about money. So my question is, what would you have to say to the people out there who are thinking, it's good enough, this is as good as it's going to get, I'll never know what to do with money, or, hey, maybe the government's got me, I think. Like, what would you say to those people?
Well, I go back to what I said first. If you aren't going to be open to hearing about something that you were never taught before, then you're right. Continue your life the way.
Good luck.
God bless you. I wish you all the best.
We ain't looking for you. Okay.
Right. But basically, there is a book that really kind of started our journey, if I had to point to something, and that was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Of course, right.
But what I loved was the subtitle of that book.
Ooh, I don't know that I could tell you what it is.
Yeah,
The
subtitle of that book is what the rich teach their kids that the poor and middle class don't.
That's right.
And they don't because they don't know. You can't pass on something that you yourself don't know, So to me, it was important. It's like, how can I help my children be financially in a better position if I can't pass that on to them because I lack the knowledge, So for us, it was important for us to learn, because here's the thing. Money is something you deal with every day, which it boggles my mind why we don't have any financial education in our school system, because money is something every day people have to deal with up until the day you die, basically, So why aren't we taught how money works and how to get money to work for us? Why is money something that only belongs to,
the elite, the wealthy?
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, that's not exactly true. I remember when I was a little kid, and now my kids are in that position. You learn to count up coins on worksheets, and then we didn't talk about it until about junior year, and then they brought out this ledger, and you could balance a checkbook. And then there was a 1040, I think, that we practiced on. And you're telling me those three things, the coin counting, the 1040, and the checkbook, that's not enough?
No, that's not enough. And unfortunately, that's not even part of today's education. When I was in school, we had economics. I remember going to class and learning how to fill out a checkbook. Ask these kids now that have graduated, do you know what a checkbook is?
Right.
So I just feel like it is important to teach generationally how money works, how to get money to work for you, so that you don't always have to work for money. And unfortunately, especially, in the Black community, we don't always have that as a
foundational point.
Yeah,
a family dinner topic.
Exactly.
So if you could break it down in your own words, what are some of the principles that this concept has helped you guys learn as a family. What are some of the principles that you've tried to tell your children and your grandchildren? Not Nelson's words, but your words. Like, these are the things that are important to think about, to learn, to understand.
Well, some of the things that, I hammer, especially with my boys, number one is you've got to understand the only way that you're going to change your financial position is you've got to stay in control of your money.
Okay.
When you give that control away, you can't get there. Number two, you are not going to get to the financial position that you would like to be in. And we all have different,
goals,
levels and goals, right?
right?
But whatever they are, you're not going to get there working a 9-to-5 job. It doesn't work. The thing that I even tell a lot of my young clients, I said, look around. How many of your parents, how many of my generation have you seen that have worked all their lives and now they're sitting in, financial pretty positions? Name one person.
Right.
So that,
right.
so you gotta understand that you've got to put money to work. And if you don't learn how to put money to work, you're not going to be able to get out of this grind of constantly working for money. And then you have to be a good steward of your money. This consumer mentality of, we got to buy everything under the sun,
We're one of the most marketed to societies that have ever existed here. So let's get off of the mindset and let's go to the product for a second. I think that's a hurdle for a lot lot of people. I had heard a lot of terrible things about whole life insurance. So how do you, what was your background around whole life insurance or utilizing that for cash value? I didn't even know that was a thing.
No, I didn't either. I have to tell this story because when my husband and I were, I would say, I don't know, mid-20s, maybe early 30s, my husband had a whole life insurance policy.
Okay.
And I actually, came into the knowledge of, buy term and invest the difference.
Right.
So guess what I did?
I canceled his policy.
I hammered on him. I'm like, honey, why are we wasting money on this whole life insurance policy? We need to buy term and invest the difference.
You learned that at one of your seminars, didn't you? I'm just telling you. You said seminars. Yeah. I'm just telling you.
Well, I've always been a learner. Right. I always want to learn. So I'm seeking out knowledge. But I will tell you that was the dumbest thing I've ever done when it came to money. Looking back now.
Well, I'm going to ask your husband here in a second if that was the dumbest thing ever or just the dumbest thing with money.
Financially.
Okay,
financially.
Gotcha.
But it's because I didn't understand. I didn't understand the power of the whole life insurance and the cash value. And because most of us just think of insurance from a death benefit perspective. Yeah, well, and I'm going to tell you, most of us think, well, I ain't planning on dying tomorrow, so why, I don't need that. And so we put it off, put it off, right? So it was really the lack of understanding about the whole life, not understanding the power of the whole life insurance product. And it wasn't until I got exposed to infinite banking that the light bulbs went on and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I realized that policy that my husband had when he was in his 20s, it's like, why did we cancel that? And it's so funny because the insurance agent that my husband had literally almost begged my husband not to cancel it because he kept telling him, you guys don't want to do that. But, we always know more than anybody
Have you gone
else.
back to ask for forgiveness? We're recording this on a Sunday. Forgiveness is important.
I don't think, no, I don't. I know I haven't.
No, you just avoid him at all costs.
Well, I don't even
too embarrassed.
know whether we still have his contact information.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, the whole life insurance is the most important tool in this whole process.
So speaking of the process, one of the things we do at the Cash Compound, our goal, our mission, crack the code to cash flow. We do that through coaching and education. So why is that important? You mentioned mentor earlier. Is coaching and is education what people got to do? Obviously, it's a leading question around here because we're having you join the team for these reasons. How important was it to you to launch your career as your own banker?
It is so important, mainly because this concept for many of us is foreign.
Yeah.
It isn't something that we were taught, So number one, you want to have that coach. You want to have that mentor that can kind of guide you through the process, because even after we started our policy, it still took me time to completely wrap my arms around it to, really understand, what am I doing? Okay, I got this tool. I don't really understand how to do it. So having a coach, and that's one of the reasons I'm excited about Cash Compound and what you guys are doing, because you're putting it in place. I cannot tell you how many people go, okay, I got this policy, but I don't know what to do, and consequently, people don't end up using their policies to the fullest of its ability, because they don't have that guide, to kind of guide them. So I 100% agree with having that mentor, having that coach, because that really helped my husband and I even get to the point that we are today.
All right. So one more big question. When you put in a premium now, 15 years later, level premiums in whole life insurance means premiums don't get more expensive. Mm-mm. They don't get, we get older, the premiums don't change.
Right.
So when you put in a premium now, 15 years later, is there really more cash value than you gave them?
Oh, yes. and you know what? That's something that you will see right there in the illustration. And that's one of the things I usually show people. Hey, here's your break-even point. This is where this policy is like wine. As wine ages, it gets better and better and better, and that's exactly what happens with the policy. The beauty of it is the premiums never... 15 years ago, I was paying the same premium I'm paying today. So the premiums stay level, but the cash value continues to rise.
I love it. All right. We want to give a shout out to one of our friends of our family out there in the Cash Compound experience. And that is a follow that we've got this week from one of our new fans. Congratulations, welcome. You're getting shouted out too. We got Victor Orocho. So Victor, welcome to the family out there. You've been following us on YouTube and subscribed very recently. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, you can find us at the Banking Bros on several social handles like Instagram, TikTok, and on and of course YouTube. And then we are thecashcompound.com and several other places out there. You can find us in those places with our new coach, Robin Washington, who's going to be coaching folks through the process of Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, and a walkthrough coaching guide to what this book even says. We had to do book reports back in school, and we had to report it on ourselves. But now you're going to be able to learn this book from someone else's perspective who actually knew Nelson personally. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to want to join that twice a month in most months very soon. And, of course, get on Robin's calendar for a consultation. That is absolutely free. Well, Robin, we're so glad to have you finally in our office, not just on the podcast. And we're going to be seeing you across our social media platforms and on one of those calls very, very soon. Thank you so much for being here. We're glad you came to the office.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.